Are we live yet?
We are definitely live, good brother.
We are live. This is 3 the hard way, except for it's 2 the hard way tonight.
We're praying for good health for our brother Torrin. He's not feeling well, but he's trying to make it. But he can rest tonight. We'll be all right.
I'm in St. Louis for only the second time. I've only been here
Really?
twice. Yeah, I've only been here twice. The first time it was only to go through the airport to get somewhere else in Missouri. So I've never really been in the city. I'm looking out my window right now and I see the arch not far away. Nice. The famous arch, you know. The only thing I know about St. Louis is that arch and Nelly.
Yeah.
And one of those things is good.
Which one? Nelly is a treasure, but I understand. And he's a very lucky treasure now that he has his girl, Miss Ashanti, back. They just had their first kid. So,
well, I hope Mr. Trump sends him some flowers. Because ain't nobody else gonna do it at this point.
Nelly is very respected in our community.
Why am I here in St. Louis? I'm here because I'm visiting 3 schools, and today I went to a school that renewed my faith in like why I even do all the stuff that I do in terms of advocacy for education, whatever. So I'm not going to go too much into it, but I will tell people it's amazing when you go into a school and you see kids that people think you can't educate getting educated.
Very well, right? Like they're really getting educated well.
Well, it's amazing to sit in the back of a classroom and watch a Black teacher master every little inch of that room, every inch. Like there was movement, there was activity, there was no boredom, there was things just kept moving and kept popping. Man, anyways, so that's my rave for today. I mean, as you can tell, the background, it looks like I got a good times apartment. But
you like these though. These are the type of hotels you like that have kitchens and refrigerators and you know.
I'm gonna be here for 10 days.
Oh yeah.
And there's nothing really super close by, so I'm gonna need to get some groceries, you know, so I have stuff, whatever. So but what are we gonna talk about tonight?
Wait, before you get into your topic, because St. Louis, as a kid, you know, I lived in Paducah with my grandmother. So when we wanted to go to like theme parks, it was either Opryland in Nashville, Tennessee. Paducah, Kentucky is like the tip of Kentucky, or it was Six Flags in St. Louis. So very familiar with those arches. And St. Louis was the city. Like that's where when people wanted to go to the city, they was going to St. Louis because Lexington is also pretty far from Paducah. So, and I had another question for you. And this is just, we'll jump into your topic. Are you a Star Wars fan?
Yeah, a little bit.
Okay. I just wanted to say, only reason I was asking, because Andor may be the best Star Wars property I've ever seen produced since the original trilogy, which again is your generation's trilogy, right? I had to see it later in life because I was, you know, born in 83. I wasn't there for the original, you know, hype around it. But this has been, Andor just was great. It just told a full story. Star Wars it took 50 years, but they grew up. It's a very adult story. And it's on Disney. Well, everything Star Wars is now on Disney and Disney Plus because they bought it. George Lucas cashed in that big old check.
He sure did.
That was $1 billion plus, I think. So
how many Black people in the original trilogy?
I don't know. I know there's some extras. I don't know though, brother. One. It got to be more than just my boy, right?
Billy D. Williams.
I mean, but he's the coolest cat in the galaxy.
He ain't cool enough to represent Black people in a movie full of white people, right?
And he got to be the sellout in the group. He got to sell out the crew.
And listen, let me tell you this. This is as a kid. This is my villain origin story. You know, so I'm in 4th or 5th grade when that was out. Of course, all the white kids are coming to school dressed as that for Halloween on Halloween Day and whatever, you know, making makeshift lightsabers and all that stuff. And I'm sitting there thinking, this is a juggernaut. This is the biggest thing ever, cultural wise. There was nothing bigger. You know, it was bigger than Michael Jackson. Star Wars was crazy. It was everywhere you went. Cereal boxes were giving you away stuff in cereal boxes. You would pour it out, get the little gift, whatever. And I think for a lot of Black kids, it was like, well, where am I? Like, I saw the movie. I like it and everything, but you ain't got no.
You got Billy D.
Bruh, first of all, Billy D wasn't in the first one.
He wasn't in the first one.
I don't think it was even in the second one. I think it may have been the third one. I'd have to go back and look at that. So the first one was the Juggernaut. That was the one that broke everything, broke all the records, whatnot. And anyways, it's just another story about representation. As a kid, I knew it. I was like, this is supposed to be the future, and there's no black people. They don't even think about.
Well, no, it's a galaxy long ago, far, far away, brother. It is actually in the past, but yes,
it's in our future, though.
Is it?
Yes, and in our future, they didn't even think that there were going to be black people left over. Kind of like Star Trek. They thought there would be two black people, Whoopi Goldberg and that dude with the butt on his head, right? I don't know if he's Klingon or something like that, Come on, anyways,
that's Mr. Reading Rainbow, brother. It's Mr. LeVar.
Talk about
the great one, as you would say, one of the greatest American programs ever created for this country.
What was Star Trek?
Reading Rainbow.
Oh, Reading Rainbow, yeah, I give that. LeVar Burton, dope,
yeah,
dope. As a matter of fact, I think LeVar Burton tried to make a move to buy Reading Rainbow or something like that. Somehow he's making a move to own a bigger education property now, and I think that's good. I think that's a good thing. That's what you do when you're super famous and you ain't got nothing else to do. Come to education, because we keep talking about the economy. There's no such thing as an economy without education, right? Oh, they're just turning right wing because the economy is bad. No, they ain't turning right wing because the economy is bad. They're turning right wing because they dumb. They stupid. They ignorant. They need education. You can tell them anything and they believe it, right?
Listen,
my good
brother Chris is going to be. He's gonna be on Code Pimping. I just want y'all to know he is gonna find a way to kick you Trump supporters backs in. It is just the consistency of it is chef's kiss. When you get a chance to, man, don't forget to link your socials. But nah, man, you gave us some topics, man. Are you still with us? I think I lost Chris for a minute. Well, until Chris gets back, let me like show some love to Star Wars Andor. Like, again, for y'all that are listening, if you even like anything at all ever in the Star Wars universe, I think this is one of the best things that I've seen produced, that I was around for when it came out. And I'm not spring chicken. I was born in 83. Like, I may not hate the prequels as much as everybody else. I didn't love them, but I've softened on them a little bit more. I liked the first season of Mandalorian, but the second one left a lot to be desired. And I also am very hurt that what they did to my precious and my beloved Boba Fett. Boba had the best marketing ever. You know what I'm saying? Boba had the best. I'm just finishing this up because I had to kill some time. Boba, you get some feedback too. Boba Fett has some of the best marketing ever. He had the best lore, and then they did a series for him, and it was terrible. It just killed his character. So, there's that. Yeah, you're getting some feedback. I don't know if you hear it on your end, Chris. Yeah, it's your mic isn't on. It's just feedback. So good though. I don't like that Chris is struggling right now, but what I do like is I get to talk more about Star Wars and be a whole nerd, because I promise you Star Wars is not on the docket for our very black topics tonight. So, I gotta take you off. That sounds crazy. Yeah. Go ahead and fix that. Go off and come back, bro. I don't know what's going on with your mic. So we're gonna let Chris get to his technical difficulties, but we got a few different topics today, man. One of the topics, the first one, is there's this whole thing about asylum for Afrikaners. So if you don't know what that is, this is Chris's topic. He's gonna explain it. It's a doozy. I don't want to step on his rundown. Let me see if I can hear him real quick. Nope, you still having the issues, bro. It still sounds like Chris, just in case you can't hear, it sounds like I I don't know, man. If binary had a sound of zeros and ones, that's what it sounds like. Sounds like you like are speaking from the Matrix. So he might have to go off and come back. But as we talk about his topic when he comes back, he'll give you a much more full rundown. But basically, what has happened in South Africa, and I have a personal connection to the apartheid situation in South Africa just because I'm a big Ron Dellums fan. I'm from Oakland. Ron Dellums is obviously from Oakland, and he's a legend in that world. Let me see if he got it. Nope. You know what? You might have to go on your settings, man. It's not hearing you at all. I gotta mute you, bro. It's like hard. You can unmute yourself and try again when you think you got it. But basically, South Africa, it was colonized, and it was colonized by the British. And there was a lot of people from the British to the Dutch to a lot of people that built their lives, a lot of white folks that built their lives in South Africa and basically implemented apartheid, right? So the Afrikaners are the Dutch, the French, German settlers, and they basically built a two-tier system of there's black, there's white, and if you're mixed, there's colored. And so anyway, there's just a lot of tyranny that plagued black people for a long time. And then there was Nelson Mandela, and I'm doing this very quick, very little quick 40,000 foot level overview. Nelson Mandela gets free. He's a political prisoner, and but he comes out and he becomes president. Had good old Winnie by his side until she wasn't, and him and Ron Dellums and all these other folks came together and they effectively worked to end apartheid, which they did. But one of the ways he did it was through this kind of forgiveness and conciliatory like practice where everybody had to kind of come to a square, say what they did so they could start to heal these hurts and heal these harms. And in that, I don't know what's going on in St. Louis, Chris. But COINTELPRO got you, brother. Maybe the Star Wars people didn't like me talking. I don't know. Maybe because you was like it was whack. Ain't no black people there. I can't unmute you because you muted yourself on this one. But anyway, let me finish telling the story until he comes in. He can take it over. So he had people come do this conciliatory like practice, and there was a healing for the country. So if you were some white person who was mistreated black people, whatever, if you came to the square and just spoke honestly about what you did, all was forgiven. And it stayed that way, and it stayed that way for a long time. Now, again, once you in apartheid, I don't mean racism just ends, right? Like I think in South Africa is maybe 20 years socially behind the United States. So do with that information as you wish. But I hear you now. Okay. Do you want to take over? Or you want me to just finish this little explanation?
Sure, finish. Go ahead and finish with you.
Yeah. And I'm doing like a 40,000 foot level, so you can add the details. Until recently, there's a new regime that is in South Africa, and they feeling a little more froggy. It's some black people that's in control, and some white South African folks, some white Afrikaners who have benefited for a long time, for generations. Many of them feel like their life may be in danger, or they're afraid of what may come. And the United States became humanitarians today and publicly put out there for the world that we would welcome, that we would be welcoming people that, white Afrikaners from South Africa, if they can prove that their life is in danger. This is interesting for Charles. I can't speak to Chris's piece, and I'll say this last part and shut up, because just recently, President Trump ended one of the humanitarian acts that made it easier for black Africans to seek asylum here. So he did that in January of 2025. So just a few months later, he has sliced that up and made it easier for those white Africans to get back here and not so much the black. Chris Stewart, it is your topic once again, brother.
I mean, I feel like you told the story. So in January, he did that. He started cutting people off, brown people, because of course, as one Republican
not brown,
said,
black.
So as one Republican said, you can't build a civilization with somebody else's baby. That's what's behind all this. they are worried about the rates of birth and all that type of stuff on their team. So they got to get rid of the brown and import some white folks. But I mean, the bottom line is in January, he did what you said he did. He made it harder for black folks and brown folks and anybody who was not white. He made it harder for them to come to the United States. And then in February, he put out an executive order saying that the white Afrikaners were being treated very badly. Very, very badly. It's a scandal how they're being treated over there. And, you know, basically that's the other South African who's in his ear, Elon Musk, right? So two of the biggest South Africans in the world are Elon Musk and Peter Thiel. And guess what? Those are exact two people who bought themselves a government, bought themselves a president. Enough so where, listen, Trump is gangster. Trump is pay to play. Trump is like, I'm just going to need you to donate some money to my meme coin and give me an airplane, and whatever deal you had in progress that Biden wouldn't sign, I'm gonna go ahead and sign it. Oh, you want me to move the embassy in Israel to Jerusalem? Well, that's gonna cost you. Okay, well, 2 people paid for that, right? Yeah, and listen, that was a doozy. Oh, you're trying to get some more arms, and no one's gonna sell you the amount of arms that we'll sell you. Okay, well, give me a $400 million jet. That I can use as the president. And guess what? Now we're going to greenlight. The day after, we're going to greenlight this major military sale, blah, blah, blah. Anyways, somebody else give you $300 million to win, and you want us to classify white South Africans as the victims? Here comes that executive order. Pay first, though. Meme coins. Buy my meme coins. Buy the Trump meme coins so that I can get all you dummies to buy it and then dump it 2 days later and make all the money off of it and leave you holding the bag. But anyways, yeah. So in February, executive order says those are refugees, those white people who were getting their land taken away. Now, let me, you know, I don't know if you said this part, but I do want to say this part about like what the real technicality is here. There was an apartheid era law that prevented the government from doing what we do in the United States called eminent domain. And there was a law during the apartheid era to prevent you from doing that because they didn't want exactly what's about to happen right now to happen, which is white folks holding black land illegally or profiting off of black land, and the black majority of South Africa being poor, and the minority, very big, small minority of whites still enjoying apartheid money and land and status and all that. So, so that's all that happened here. That president who came in, the new president, Ramaphosa, I think, came in and said, "Yeah, we're not doing that. We're going to take some land. Some of y'all are sitting on land that should belong to the black masses, and we're not going to be a poor black African country with you sitting up here rich." So, anyways, now they're here. Donald Trump said, "You're refugees. Come on over," and he welcomed them. He welcomed them. This is the emergence, folks, of the white rights movement. They are making a claim and an argument, and they have been for a few years now, that the worst discriminated against group is white males, because all this leftist stuff that you guys do left out the white male. So every time they see any diversity stuff or any trainings or any stuff like that, they're the bad guy, and they're mad about it. And now they're claiming victimhood status. Now they're the victims of you diversity people. See what y'all did with your diversity, equity, and inclusion. See what you did with your civil rights. See what you did with your Obama. You wanted an Obama. I feel like we would have been better off with a Romney. Just to be hot take-ish. I think if Romney had won, we'd be better off right now.
Probably. I mean, I think when you hit power, power hits back. When you, I mean, again, like when I see stuff like this, like, you know, I look at it like I don't remember there being a call when Rwanda was being, well, which is still, they're still being murdered in Rwanda, by the way. That genocide is still happening. But I don't know if we did a worldwide call. It is. Rwanda still needs, I think it still needs support. Let me double check, fact check.
Actually, Rwanda's the safest country in Africa now.
Is it? Are you sure?
Yeah, it's definitely the most developed, and it's got a whole tourism industry now.
Rwanda might have all that. Let's see. I want to know. I mean, again, but that genocide. People are
traveling there as like, you know, that hotel that was in the Hotel Rwanda movie. That's popping again.
Is it?
Whole bunch of 20-somethings sitting out at that pool, the pool that was in the movie. There's a whole bunch of 20-somethings swimming in it right now.
Listen, I have no problem saying if I'm wrong, but I do know there are current genocides that are currently happening around the world.
Congo and Sudan are
okay.
the
I know
worst.
the Sudanese. I know about the Sudanese thing that's still happening, and our U.S. policy has been to stay out of that because, you know, I've seen official, and to be fair, I've seen that with both Republican and Democratic presidents or groups that didn't want to get in over there. It's just interesting that this is the one that we have made a public stand for. Very interesting.
True. Yeah, that's
very
true.
interesting.
Why do you think that is? What quality about this one?
Oh, I think that, like you said, I think you said it earlier. Here's the thing. Here's how I look at this. You do have a very powerful, rich white South African who probably would have been one of those people on the plate, or maybe he has people there that he loves and cares about. And when you're paying like you weighing, I think he's standing 10 toes down for his people. And I think it's a little easier to swallow those 10 toes down because they look like the other person that's in charge. And you can stand behind genocide, or not even genocide, the potential. I mean, they're just fawning, like they're worried that there's going to be some retaliation for those things. So the threat, not even of genocide, but just of harm, it just sparks a different emotion. I see it very similar to people that had zero compassion for people that were addicted to crack cocaine and heroin that tend to look like a certain type of people, versus when we had a recent opioid crisis that had everybody from all races, but the main faces of that were rural white people. And so all of a sudden, people that had no compassion and were the law, baby, the law, found some compassion. You know why? Because when a senator's son is still in pills, it's a problem. You know what I'm saying? When the vice president's own son has a drug problem, and some of it's, you know, related to opioids, but he was on a lot of stuff. But people found some compassion, and the same way we found compassion and hate against, you know, people in the tyranny of other countries. We didn't just go in there and try to get oil. So, you know, I don't know what the other thing of benefit we have from you know, jumping in there. But those are my thoughts. What are yours, though? I feel like you've thought a little bit more about this.
I mean, you know, some of my thoughts about this. Like, here's the one thought that's always going to come up for me. This would not be happening if Kamala Harris won. And I think, like, people aren't serious. They're not serious about this point. This one point that I'm making right now, because we are very privileged in this country, right?
Extremely.
If you were somebody that was waiting for that USAID food and you don't exist anymore, that's a consequence. That's like a consequence of a pen stroke, right? Between a sociopath and somebody who would have continued that aid going on, right? He's talking about cutting off aid of all countries that don't do what he wants them to do. And what he wants them to do is go back to colonial times, right? Now our problem is expanding beyond the United States. It's hurting other people now. It's one thing to hurt us because we stupid. But to hurt the whole rest of the world, I mean, listen, let's just be real. Money makes you stupid and weak. And we got some of the most imbecilic individuals. Like for sure, the downfall of America is going to be ignorance and stupidity. That's going to be the downfall. That's literally going to be the thing that hollows out the core. Really dumb people addicted to entertainment. Because right now, I'm not dying from a lack of food. I'm not dying from being cut off of anything right now. So I just as easily as anybody else could say, well, sorry, hate to be you. I mean, you know, like elections, he won. So whatever, you know, I could be flippant about it, but I just can't be flippant about it when you start seeing the level of chaos and corruption that he is causing in the lives of other people. It'll catch up with me eventually. I don't feel like I'm going to be spared. I feel like it eventually will hit home. But for right now, I have the luxury of just chilling. I haven't lost anything yet. And that's what I think is wrong with a lot of Americans is they have to lose something before they care. Like, it's not bad enough that somebody else is losing something. And people, let's be real, people are losing a lot of things right now. So anyways, that's my thoughts on it. My thoughts on it right now is Donald Trump is doing exactly what everybody knew he was going to do. It was what was written in Project 2025. For those that read it and understood what it meant and thought beyond the pages, none of this is a surprise. None of this is a shock. The shocking thing about it, I think, is that it's been successful. I think even conservatives are shocked by, there's conservatives that hate Trump, that are shocked by the level of everything that they wanted for 50 years is coming true. And they're like, yeah, I hate him, but we've been trying for 50 years to reverse taxes, to strip back civil rights protections, labor unions, all that type of stuff. We've been waiting for this. So anyways.
Hey, Chris, can I ask you a question? Do you think Ronald Reagan is looking somewhere, up or down, up to y'all, not my judgment call to make, and just being like, damn, like, we've always been about this, but we had to be covert. I had to have people. Iran-Contra was stressful for me, B. Like, if I could have just did this stuff out in the open, do you know how much more I could have done? I'm just curious. Do you think like a Nixon is like looking like, damn, my corruption I had to be a little more savvy, and they say I was the least savvy cat. This dude ain't a tenth of my savvy. He just is brass. I just wonder if you feel like there's any deceased leaders that might be a little jealous of that the way in which this could happen. Sorry to take you on that thought experiment.
No,
but,
I actually think it's funny because I think the answer to that is no, because I feel like we rehabilitated Reagan over the years. I think people forgot what it was like to be there. I know that my uncles and my dad and everybody else in the family, before he won, they were talking the same way that we were talking about Trump. They were like, if this man comes into office, he's about to eliminate your black ass from a lot of things. And he sure did. He came right in. He was the Trump of his time. Since then, we've made him kinder and gentler. We've made him less of an issue. But for his time, I mean, he came in and the majority of welfare cases were white people. And he's like, I want to get rid of welfare. All I got to do is call it black. That's where the whole welfare thing.
It's called savvy. It's called savvy.
It's called savvy. Trump before Trump. That's why Trump stole his slogan, "Make America Great Again." That was Reagan's slogan. He stole it. He's like, I'm going to be Reagan part 2. And that is what he is. I say the way that we feel about Trump right now is the way that my uncles and my dad felt about Reagan when he came in, when he won.
Yeah, I do think, I mean, here's the thing. Here's probably my hot take. And again, because now we're just splitting hairs on very racist policies. Whether you feel a person is racist or not, policies that definitely feel racist and targeted. I actually feel like Reagan felt like he had more disdain for black communities. Like you said, like you kind of mentioned at the beginning, like Trump is in a pay for play more situation. Like, yeah, hey, y'all, hey, I can rock with the black folks. I just need a bigger check. And for y'all that don't know, cryptocurrency for a lot of powerful people, it's the new cash under the table. This is a way for you to pay me. It's not really able to be tracked fully just yet because of the blockchain, even though they are finding ways to kind of, when they find out how to track who got what and sent what on the blockchain, this whole crypto thing is going to be really tough for a lot of people. I think there's some, it's just an interesting, when I was doing research on this topic, it was just very interesting. And, I can be a little morbid because we live in an empire. So I like studying shit. I want to know how the biggest empires of written history have fallen. Do you want to know some of the top reasons that they've fallen? And I'm saying this as we live in an empire right now that looks like no empire lasts forever. Hopefully. So the top reasons are external invasions and wars, military overreach, social unrest, which we fall very squarely in, political corruption, and economic instability. Those combination of those factors is what you need those things to happen around the same time to create this perfect storm. So when you look at, Rome, or you look at, some of these huge like dynasties in old Chinese history, you can draw a line to each of these things. And I think we checking a few of those boxes. I think we are. It's a little scary. I'm not trying to be an alarmist. I'm just sharing some history with you. And there are tons of articles that have studied these very same things.
It's not alarmist at all. I think there's another one that to add to the list, and that's decadence. I feel like, once you get too wealthy as a nation, whether you're Rome or Greece or Egypt, you start doing weird things. Mm-hmm. You start, like, your people are so bored and so kind of rich that they start taking on some habits that makes them mentally and sexually and physically weird. Rome got very weird. Like, I don't know how we teach European history and
weird
and hold up Greece and Rome.
I was gonna say Greece. I was gonna say more Greece than Rome, but both.
Hold up Greece and Rome as like the thing to study. But how do you sidestep all that weird shit? Like, seriously, like how are we brainwashed to think of those as great empires without the weird part?
Well, I would say, as somebody who does love history, I would say great has different meanings, right? When people say great empires, I'm not saying, when I say great empire, I'm not thinking of great as like great meaning very good. Great just in like stature, in like how long you dominated, right? Like, you know what I'm saying? Like the reach of what you were able to do, right? Like, I mean,
and you think that Rome's reach and whatever dominance was big, right?
It was huge. I think it was huge, and right? Not just huge, but it was also just so instrumental to where things are today, all the way from in the Bible to their fall, to Caesar, to Cleopatra, like Egypt, like all these things, like Ottoman Empire, how that all operated, and the reason, partially because many generals, many powerful people still do use Rome as the reference point. Like they stuck as far as
they do that because of white supremacy. They do that because
regardless of the why, right? I'm just going from factual. But the fact that there are still a lot of the terminology, our democracy, the way that we do democracy, right? Like, I mean, in many ways, a lot of that lived on and lives through. Now,
our constitution was largely connected to the Iroquois, so you know, it's like they stole directly from them folks. Hey, how y'all working out this confederation thing? How you got all these tribes not killing each other right now? Tell us how you're doing that. Right. Oh, thank you for the structure. But anyways, the point that I was making when I asked you if Rome was big, and he's huge, I was expecting you to say, yes, it's like one of the biggest in history, very big, which is making my point. Don't you think it's important then to talk about how one of the largest empires did some of the weirdest shit ever?
Well, but I would say
not one, a couple of the largest
empires. I think they all, that's the point, they all do. And I don't think you said it was an add-on. I don't know I think it's the same. I think that is what you just mentioned was the mix of economic instability. Like you said, we're so rich. Like, economic instability isn't just everybody's poor. Economic instability is when you have so few people that have so much, and then you have a ton of people that have so little, right? So again, like in Rome, it started to happen, right? That gap started to grow more and more and more. So and political corruption, right? How do you get to that place? Well, one doesn't really happen without the other, right? Economic instability of that size requires a level of political corruption. It requires a few et tu Brutuses. You get what I'm saying? It requires a few. Hey, we sick of this Caesar cat, bro. He done lost his ever-loving mind. And so I know you his best friend, but we about to stab him on the steps. So who you rolling with? And by the way, when he dies, you can bag his chick. You can go bag his, because she's ready.
I mean, did you hear the story about the one that had fell in love with the young dude so much that he had him castrated and made him his wife? And after he was conquered, the next emperor took him on as his wife because apparently, I guess this cat is just beautiful. So when I say decadence and weirdness, I'm saying that, like, what I just told you.
Shalimar, bro, is that how you talk?
I'm just telling you, that what I just gave you is the pin of the needle of the weirdness. It's like it's a tiny, it's an atom in compared to all of the other weirdness that went on there. And that one little story, just think about this. They started breaking rules. That's what I mean by decadence. By decadence means I could just have whatever I want now. I could just do whatever I want. And there's no more morality. There's no more morals. I could steal, rape, plunder, whatever. So you're talking about drunken, you're talking about Sodom in a lot of ways. You're talking about like just really lewd behavior, right? People think that thing in Sodom was about.
It wasn't just sex, yeah. There was a lot going on in Sodom and Gomorrah, yeah.
But it was a lot of the sex too. I mean, they were very into rape. Let's just put it that way. And everybody was fair game with it. This is what I mean by decadence, right? Like if there's a small number of people doing that, that's different. But the richer everybody gets, the more they start having these lives of luxury where they're bored. They're sitting around all day. Like, I'm pretty bored. So I think I'm going to grab that boy, have him euthanized or whatever you call it, and then I'm going to make him my wife, right?
Well, we've used this name. Eminem used this word when he was in this battle with Nick Cannon. This is that, which lets you know it happened more than people probably are comfortable with, but it's a eunuch, right? Like before you go through puberty, we remove those things, and you are the people. They're now normally eunuchs were they did that so that they could trust them around their concubine. So if I'm the emperor and I'm still misogynistic. I still want a man leading something. So we're going to have a eunuch that's assigned to these concubines to keep everything going, but we don't have to worry about, you taking them or stealing them or stealing my lady, because you're a eunuch. You have no, I don't know how else to say it. We're not on TikTok, so I can just.
That's right. See, I forget that sometimes. See how that is?
They cut shit off, man.
That's how restrictive it is over there,
Yeah. So I mean, but again, when you look at this though, again, I've always been into this. Like, how do these empires fall? And it's usually what I thought you were gonna say too, and you alluded to this. I think we both have, but we have to say it out loud. There's just a hubris that follows with all of this. There's a hubris that it can never end. It will never end. And that's when you feel like that, that's when it ends.
So I just want to say, I got to keep pushing my weirdo story, which is
I see.
So the guy's name was Sporus. His name was Sporus, and he died in 60 AD. He was a young slave boy whom the Roman Emperor Nero had castrated and married during his tour of Greece, allegedly in order for him to play the role of his wife. Nero, in a fit of psychotic rage, murdered Poppaea Sabina and their child so that he could have this new wife, right? Like, I mean, if we're not weird enough yet. Now, his name Sporus is most likely an epithet that stands for seed, like male seed.
Oh,
let's
really?
Just call it. Yeah. So his name, even from back then.
Yeah, I don't know. You are putting me up on game. I don't know who the Sporus cat is. So
I remember Sporus.
Okay.
Yeah. So he was married to Nero. He was Nero's wife. So the reason I really like these type of things, because I love history. History is my thing.
Jesus.
The thing.
I'm sorry.
You thought I was live, right?
Live on air,
right? Yeah, you thought I was joking. Here's my thing about it. Like, they love to tell you about big empires and about how the Western civilization made the entire world what it is and all that type of stuff. And that's where our morality comes from. Like if you look at the Stoics were very disciplined people. And if you look at the writings left behind by the Stoics, that's what a lot of people
I have Marcus Aurelius in my bookcase, man. Don't ruin Marcus Aurelius.
This is my point is they want you to think that that's what was the predominant.
Was everybody, yeah.
That was a small group of wealthy people who had a lot of time to educate themselves. Again, what I said about the United States, Marcus was a wealthy, very educated person. He had time to sit around and write his diaries of what he thought about the world. He wasn't a weirdo. But when they taught us all this stuff in school, don't you feel like they left out the weirdo part?
Well, definitely. I mean, definitely. And I'm somebody who does read about, like, I respect Marcus Aurelius, but I can also point to he was the beginning of the fall of the Roman Empire, because what they did before Marcus was it wasn't just your son becomes the next person. It was not that. You had to earn it. You had to have these qualities, and Marcus Aurelius had them in spades, if I'm just going by the text. But he does have this son, and in this with this son, he is like, putting him through all these trainings, political training, defense. He basically, Marcus Aurelius is like #1 bodyguard, used to beat the shit out of his son every day, teaching him how to like fight, be a man, and he never quite got it. And to the point, if you watch Gladiator does a run off of it, a little play, but like, then he would do things like in the Roman Empire, he wanted to be seen as strong, so he would have a real sword and give them a fake or dulled sword or a wooden sword, or hurt them beforehand so he could go out and kind of prove his mettle, but he was never worthy. And that kind of started this whole, downward spiral that would go over generations. Because again, Marcus Aurelius and Caesar are not, there's some time in between there. But when you just started getting power because of who your parents were versus who can actually lead and who's battle tested, it's a little different. Like, to be an emperor during Marcus' time, you had to survive a few wars, bro. You had to conquer some stuff and come out the victor, So it's very interesting. But when I remember being in Paris, and I stayed in the Bastille. Bastille means basically it's the war-torn area of France and Napoleon, and it's just a beautiful place to be. But there's so much history. It's the same cobblestone roads in a lot of places. But when you read about Napoleon and the way hubris, it's always hubris. It's always all these things kind of have we done turned this into a history lesson, but this is when you read a bunch of books and a lot of people around you don't, you find somebody else that reads it, brother. We got a vibe. We owe it to the books.
This is like, in talking with Sharif and Ish, this is one of those things where a lot of people that read the same thing you read, like a lot of the same books that you've read. So they know certain truths that other people don't know. Like if you study Greece and Rome and all that type of stuff, you have to get to Egypt. Yeah. And if you get to Egypt, then you have to get to Nubia eventually. But what you figure out is once white Western folks took over the storytelling, now you no longer have to get to Egypt. And for sure, you don't have to get beyond Egypt to Nubia, right?
Right.
It's almost it's only African scholars that got that left over for you. And the first libraries and all that type of stuff, one of the first things they did is what Trump is doing right now. One of the first things they did when they went into Mali and other places,
burn them.
Burn all the books, burn all the record, because you guys aren't going to exist after we steal all your stuff.
Who that nigga on that pyramid? Hey, cut that nose off of me, B.
This is what I'll say too. They burn your books and all that type of stuff, except for the ones that they want to steal, like math and how you built those pyramids. How did you make that happen? Geometry, right? Algebra, all that stuff. They start stealing that, and they take that home with them. And guess what? For good measure, they take some of the best people and say, you got a choice here. You either going to come back to Rome and be a Roman and do your math stuff there.
You're going to die.
Or you're going to die. And you're really good with medicine. So what we're going to need you to do is we're going to need you to work directly for the top brass. Yeah. Or you could just stay here, and you know what's going to happen if you stay here, right? So anyways, we talk about Greece, we talk about Rome, and we rarely get to Egypt, and then we rarely get beyond Egypt. I mean, Egypt is the last point of African transmission to the entire world. Mm-hmm. Like the stuff that came out of Egypt, I think it's a shame to talk about Greece and Rome, not even talking about Egypt, right?
Yeah. But Egyptians help with that, though. And let me tell you, like when you argue, when you have people that were born in the African continent that will spite you and curse you if you call them black, this is what you get. This happens today. It is like a thing. Like it is still a thing.
That'd be like somebody calling you POC.
Well, I guess I think it's a little different. I think to say don't consider me necessarily like black or African or whatever. Consider me Middle Eastern. Consider me this. Like, I think it's a little different. I don't know. I think it's just Rami was a really good show. You watched Rami when it was on? Mm-mm. It's a black Egyptian Muslim cat that lives in the United States, and then they have a few episodes where they go back to Cairo, and he's with his Egyptian cousins, and they have a conversation about nigga or the N-word. and if they can or can't say it, or where they land in the black diaspora, or the difference in their form of Islam versus that of the Nation of Islam. It's really interesting. Shout out to Mahershala Ali, my friend Brian. Mahershala is from Hayward. My friend Brian that you know. Brian was Mahershala's teacher in high school. But he's Muslim, and he was in the show as an imam and had to confront some of that stuff. Anyway, I'm veering off because I love pop culture. I didn't mean to stop you from where you were going. Well, I'm excited about this topic because I don't get to talk about this in regular forms.
This came out of this discussion a little bit more recently. Came out of pop culture because of Kevin Hart and because of Jada Pinkett. Right, when Jada Pinkett did the whole Cleopatra thing or whatnot, made her Black African, the Egyptians freaked out.
Yeah,
they called it like a insult. It's an insult. It wasn't an insult when y'all had Elizabeth. What's her name? Elizabeth Taylor. Yeah, Elizabeth Taylor playing it, and her husband. That wasn't a problem then. But then Kevin Hart had told a joke about somehow connecting them to Egypt. I forgot what the joke was, but he was supposed to come there and do a show, and they were like, "No, you did a joke about us being black, or something like that."
Yeah, they will say. So what they say. So apparently, her lineage is that of Greek. Like she was like Macedonian. So like they came, and her people came over. I think it was like after Alexander the Great. Something happened where they said she was fair skinned because she was Macedonian and came from this other area. I don't give a damn. Like, I mean, here like this. Even if she was the lightest of lights, she could have been Halle Berry. She wasn't Elizabeth. She wasn't Elizabeth Taylor. She wasn't Elizabeth Taylor. No. And that story gets a little weird too. She had to marry her brother and execute him. She had to get rid of all. I mean, this is Game of Thrones shit over here, B. Like, it's different.
Weird. See, that's weird. Like the history of weird.
She married when he was a boy and had him executed.
Yeah, like the history of weird.
I think.
And I was about to say, well, that's what Greece brought back to Africa. But you know what? In the Egyptian Empire, there was a lot of weird too. Like Akhenaten was the first monotheist in history. But because of that, he kind of rewrote a whole bunch of Egyptian stuff to change the godhead, and he okay, this is gonna be the crazy part, right? Because I told you that Greece and Rome did weird things, and I told you about a man who saw another man that he loved so much that he had him castrated and made him his wife. In a world in which the people who follow Western civilization today as the best ever, whatever, are talking about there was no such thing as trans back in the day. Like, this is something that was invented new. You have a whole emperor who started trans in your Western civilization, made a man become his wife. And
but I don't know if that's trans. That was by force. Like, I think it's like
transitioned though. He transitioned. Yeah. You was a man, and all of a sudden we lopped something off, and whoop, there you go, you're a girl. And this is my point. But what I was going to say about Egypt also was Akhenaten was a transgender person, not transgender like we think of transgender. Like, he literally was a boy girl. Like, there was something genetically different with him, so he's painted as like a boy girl. Like I
think there's a different name for that, but I got you. I see what you're saying.
Hermaphrodite is what I think it is. I think it's in New Orleans we used to call them morphodites. But it's hermaphrodite, right? It's recorded, on the walls and stuff. You get all these kind of manly and womanly looking people, and then all of a sudden you get to this one, and you're like, "What is happening there?" Right? Tells you how old all this stuff is.
Well, here's the thing, right? And not to leave our girl out, Cleopatra, respect. Here's the funny thing, though, and I just pulled this up. It was very easy and quick. So if she was predominantly Macedonian Greek and minorly Iranian descent, right? Like with the Persians and all that stuff, but they still had to get rid of that nigga nose. Why did the nose still get? If she wasn't that, What she had our nose, bro. Like you are a very fair-skinned brother, but that no, we have Creole. The nose is there. We you know what I'm saying? So if that's the case, if that top right corner picture is more of her, I don't know if her nose was getting cut off in the same way, personally. But again, all I got to go off of is the context clues, baby.
Ralph Wiley. I don't know if you know who Ralph Wiley is. Ralph Wiley was he was a very big sports commentator, black sports commentator, and he ended up writing a couple of books. And one of those books I just devoured because his writing was so good. Even though he's a sports writer, he wrote about race and stuff sometimes. Mm-hmm. And he had a joke in there. It wasn't really a joke, but he said, they like to pretend that Greek people are white until their wife wants to go and do a solo vacation to Greece. Right?
Oh, they don't want them olive skins next to them, huh?
I don't know if people were paying attention, but there's a big difference between the English and the Greeks, right? Like to pretend like that is not an of color group that just somehow got I don't know, grandfathered into whiteness somehow. They were never considered white, right? They did some intermarrying now, but yeah. Anyways, all this stuff to me, I mean, maybe this is a new curriculum. The weirdness of history, right?
Well, I try to, as somebody who went through this in a scholarly way, I try not to be ethnocentric. For y'all that don't know out there, ethnocentricity is when you are judging other cultures, different times, different places, based off of the standards of your own culture. So, for instance, it's now that we have different laws, different rules, or whatever, it's basically, judging other cultures before. Like if we go into a place not touched by Western civilization and call what they do weird. Now, what Chris is saying, again, these are people, I don't think Chris is doing that. What I think Chris is doing, and I'm speaking about you as if you're not here, but
first of all, I was like, what the hell is Chris doing?
What I think my friend Chris is doing is saying, no, these are the standard bearers by which people go to make a case for X, Y, and Z. So if that's the case, it's no longer ethnocentric because that's the standard you're using to try to judge where we are now. So let me call it out as weird.
Let me change it though, because I agree with you, but it is ethnocentric, but not on my part.
That's what I'm saying.
Pretending that white Western civilization
it's canceling each other out is what I'm saying.
No, but none of it's on me though, right? Because this is what I want to say. We were taught in the West that the West was everything, but if you were from the East, I mean, if you're Chinese, how old is your empire if you're Chinese?
Oh shit!
How old is your language, your writing, your ability to organize, all that shit? How old is it?
I don't even want to. It's very, very old.
It's the oldest.
It's ancient. Right? It's very old.
So to be talking about the West and starting life at Greece and Rome seems a little bit ethnocentric to me, right? Like, What about the East? We got some other people on this planet, right? But we were taught that without being taught. All I'm saying right now is we weren't given all the details. That's all.
Absolutely. But here's the thing: you never will be, and this is why education and literacy. Again, we're not going to turn this into an education podcast, but you got the two education guys, and we don't have adult supervision with Torin here. But this is why we have kind of chosen education, especially Black literacy, as one of those mantles. Because if you don't know history, they will run a play on you. They will run a play. None of this stuff is new. None. Leaders of foreign nations have always made deals that benefited them and their ilk. Domestic leaders have always tried to secure their own livelihoods and their own people's things throughout time. And Trump is doing something very interesting in the sense where he's doing it very loud and proudly as if this were, 60s or 70s. And so, and my thing is you need to just know history. You have to understand how power works. I really do feel like we have a warped understanding and view of power. And I don't think that's really healthy for us. I just don't. I think that our ancestors, I think that even people in the civil rights, pre-civil rights, I think they had a different, more sober understanding of power. And the reason, my rationale for saying that, Chris, is because the level of shock that I see on things, and I just don't think if my grandmother or my great-grandmother were still alive, that they'd be very shocked about these things happening. I don't think you're shocked. I think you are shocked that people are not aware of what's going on, and you're like screaming into the ether, like, this is what's coming. I'm telling you because I can read history.
If I'm shocked about anything, that's what I'm shocked about.
That's what I'm saying. I don't think you're very shocked at all.
I'm shocked that there's so many people who just don't understand the gravity of what's happening right now.
Mm-hmm.
Right? They'll be the last to know. There's so many people in this country where they'll be the last to know. I can look at people sometimes and go, yep, you'll be first in line on the train going to the camp. And you'll be saying that to yourself, like, damn, how'd this happen? I was just on the corner with my 40. Right. But listen, and that's an old ass reference, just so y'all know. That's an old reference because y'all don't do 40s no more. Y'all, you ain't got a life like that. Y'all not about that life. Y'all out here drinking Zima.
Ain't about that life.
No, you ain't about that. 40s, a 40. When was the last time you saw somebody consume an entire 40?
Well, I live where I live. I do see 40s still sell here. So I mean,
they still sell, but do people consume them like they used to?
Speaking of which, bro, so I live in this place called Dalton, right?
Yep.
And we were just in the news for something else. Hold on. Sorry, that was the YouTube on the other link. So we just got rid of our very wild mayor, very young mayor. And I know some people's like, oh, did she get attacked? She a black woman? No, this is all black. It's all black people. Dalton is 80% black. It's all blackness. So we get out of that, got her out. Cool. We got a new mayor, getting stuff on track. Then we just got a new pope. And the pope is from Chicago. No, wait a minute. He's from just south of Chicago. Now there's also
he's from Dalton.
Well, he's from Dalton. In my little town that nobody knows, nobody cares about. That used to be white, not white no more. It's black, and brown is growing, and brown would probably surpass us at some point because that's just how it goes here. Now we got all these tourists and people, man, in my little town because they want to see where the Pope lives. I can walk to where the Pope grew up. Dalton is like it's a village. It's not even a town. It's not a city. It's very, very small, so you can walk the full thing, and it's just been a lot, Chris. I feel like it was anonymous.
We can undershoot or we can undercut how much of a big deal that is. Like the Pope. Like if you're Catholic, like this isn't playtime. This is like their Pope. They're serious about it. They were so serious that when Trump put out a picture of himself as the Pope,
that pissed off some white folks.
The ones who are usually okay with everything else, all of a sudden he was like, "This is beyond the pale." Wait a second, this is beyond the pale. Putting out a meme of himself as the Pope. That's your point.
Sacrilegion usually does that. Put it like this: do one of
Trump been sacrilegious before?
I mean, sure. I mean, look, or what people might deem sacrilegious. Well, listen, you don't want to play with people's religion. I promise you don't. I promise you don't. I promise you don't. Like I watched South Park, right. And when South Park was trying to play them games, Comedy Central lets them get away with a lot of stuff. They were like, no, shut that down. You can mess with Christianity a little bit, but Islam, bro, we do not want those problems.
What you got to remember is Saturday Night Live, Sinead
O'Connor.
At the end of it, she tears up a picture of the Pope and says, "It's time to start talking about the real villain," or something like that. Yeah. And her mental health died on that day because that was the last we heard of her being sane. And
she died, right?
She wrote about it later. Yeah, it was maybe.
I think she just passed away.
I want to say it's like 2 years ago or something though. Now,
yeah, pretty frequently.
Yeah,
pretty recently.
It's been a while, but yeah, it was to the point where at every concert after that, for a period of time, she was getting booed off the stage. There were people buying tickets to boo her, right? Like, I'm here to boo you. It was worth the cost to get in here to tell you how mad I am about this Pope stuff, right? I wish that they were that religious when it came to things like poverty.
Mm-hmm.
Which, I mean, how is it that you can be Christian and that's not number one on your list, right?
Yeah, man.
They have found they have done damage to their own thinking with their religion. Anyways, I like that you call me out as ethnocentric. Negro, please.
I didn't call you ethnocentric. I said
Negro,
it could be mistaken as ethnocentricity. And not only did I not call you out, I preemptively defended because I understood your rationale.
That's how I know you're lying. When you start pulling out the big words, that's how I know you did something like that needs to be looked at.
Not at all. No, brother. I'm just preempted before somebody say something. I got you. I understand from that standpoint, B. I got you. I will say, but that your piece does lead into mine pretty well.
Yeah, let's talk about yours.
Which I think is equally as funny. Maybe even less so, because again, it ain't. Well, it could potentially be as serious, but I've been having a little bit of not fun, but jest with it. And this one is the idea or notion of Black fatigue. Have you been seeing all this Black fatigue stuff online?
I did a TikTok about it. If everybody want to see it, go find me on TikTok. Oh yeah, I did a TikTok on it already.
Oh brother, I need to shoot me that link so we can. I will play some of that. Let's get you some love over there on the good TikTok. Now y'all know it'll be censored in a weird way because TikTok is weird, and Chris is the only one of my friend group that understands TikTok language. So God bless him. Chris has made me effectively hate doing lives on TikTok.
I will tell you this much: it changes your talk patterns.
It does. Yeah. And it's really weird. I hate it. But here, for y'all that don't know, it's basically fatigue from people that are not Black. And it's they're tired of hearing about police brutality. They're tired of hearing about all these racially kind of charged topics that kind of favor Black people and other folks. They're tired of hearing about education gaps. They're tired of terms like equity. They're tired of quotas or DEI. They feel like, look, that was, and you're getting some people that's bold, right? They're saying things like, look, my ancestors are not me. I didn't do any of this stuff. Why am I still having to feel guilty about being a white person or having to hear this and give grace? So my question, one, I would love to hear a little bit of what you said in your post, but how do we move forward when people, who built the problem said they tired of hearing about, the problem? And is there anything to this thing? I feel like I know your answer, and I know mine. I think it's very similar. So this might be a very boring topic, but what is your thoughts and reaction when you hear about Black fatigue, Chris?
So one of the women that started it on TikTok, the way she started it was because she was defending the woman in Minnesota who called the little boy a nigger. Mm-hmm. And she's like, listen, I saw the video, and basically what she's saying is, I don't know that she should have called him that. That's a little trashy. But Let me tell you this. I get it because Black fatigue is real. And Black fatigue is how desperately tired we are of Black people and their victimhood and their loud, aggressive getting in fights on cruise ships. She just went down this list of things. We are tired of it. We are just sick of the ghetto behavior, right? This is white America, wanting to talk back, clap back. So what I responded to her with was basically what you would expect, which is Black fatigue was a term amongst Black people that meant dual consciousness, how fatiguing it is to have to always live in two consciousness, always have to be the person that God meant you to be, and also having to deal with the person that the dominant culture is trying to make you, right? That's tiring. That's tiring to go to work every day and have to code switch to make people not feel uncomfortable, whatever. That's tiring, right? To teach and have people, complain to your boss about things that you did, and that if you were a different color or whatever, it would be that way. That's fatiguing. That's Black fatigue. However, let me just say this.
Yes, please do. Let me know.
However, let me just
say
this.
Talk to me, brother.
Because I made a deal with her at the end. I made her an offer. And here's the offer. I said, what you guys need to understand is we understand you better than you understand yourself. We've had to study ourselves and you. That's the history here, right? So let me give you a little bit of feedback about you guys. You guys are really fatigued by the idea right now that you're going out of style and you're going to die. right? You are going to die off. As a population right now, you are facing down what you think is an existential threat, which is the end of days, the brown people taking over. And what you will never want to happen is to ever look up and feel like you're no longer on top of everything, and you're going to have to negotiate with other people, the rules and the outcomes, all that. So the offer that I want to make you is, you guys are becoming the minority. You're already the minority in public schools. In 2014, they became the minority in public schools, 2014. And that's when a lot of our problems started ticking off. But as the new minority, I think the rest of us minorities are going to get together and give you a webinar on how to be a good minority, because you're at a bad start right now.
I was going to say, shouldn't we like adopt and like, you know, spread? You're new here. You're new here. Let us show you around.
Yes, let us help you out with the rules.
Let us show you around,
because this is going to be new for you. This is you're not going to understand this at all, right? So what we need to do is a webinar for our white friends who are becoming the minority now, to let them know things like, you know what, not everything you say is going to be golden. You know, there's going to be times where you're just going to catch an ass whooping. Like you know, there's you know, whatever, things are going to change. Because right now,
that happens not in your favor at times.
This is how I know that they're a terrible minority, because they thought putting on a mask was the worst civil rights thing ever, right? Worse than being strung up on a tree. The minimal little things that they freak out about, they're like, oh, you're taking away all my liberty and my rights and my freedom. Oh, you're going to be a bad minority. You're going to be terrible as a minority. We're going to have to get together and get you some training, right? And if you won't take it from us, you know, maybe you'll take it from, I don't know, maybe Puerto Ricans or somebody can pull you aside and say, shh, I got a few things to tell you here, homie. You know, like all that Rome Grease shit.
well, Chris, I have two things to say about this. I'll start with the light one, but not light, but you know, we covered this. Torrance topic last week was around the father whose son was murdered by the cops, and he got his retribution. And then everybody was saying, but he got the wrong person. And this is where, whoa, let me let you know. Charles and Chris have you though. This is another lesson in being a new minority. There's a lot of people that in the past 10 years that cops have kind of went into the wrong house, killed the wrong person, and they just be like, oh, my bad. We was fighting crime though. We was getting communal retribution. So
now,
mistake.
If she wasn't laying in the bed, she wouldn't have got shot. Right? Breonna Taylor.
Oh, yeah. Oh, in Louisville, brother. I know the Kentucky story. Listen, but there's a lot of people. There's Tyree Nichols. There's a bunch of people that have gotten the worst end of those things. And the cops just, Oscar Grant. I'm from Oakland, B. Like, I accidentally shot him. I thought it was my taser and not my gun. Promise you there's a different
that's the dude in Brooklyn Park here in Minnesota. I forgot his name now. Yeah.
So and what it was like, oh man, we are bad. You know, we're sorry. It was a mistake. It was an honest mistake. So this father getting retribution, man, he might have got the wrong person, but Chris, but he fit the description, Chris.
Yeah.
He had on a cop suit. It's crazy.
And you know what I said about that one,
Chris? Do you know how many descriptions I have fit in my life? Again, told you one of these we've played on the air. We played on the air and we had 8 black hands. But here's the second thing, Chris, that I would love for you to comment on. Now, people may not know this. Chris and I both are writers. I used to write a lot more. I used to contribute to this small publication you may have heard of called Huffington Post. And Black fatigue actually was already a term. I don't know if you knew this, Chris. It was actually for Black people that felt the fatigue of having to wear the L's that can come with being Black. So for those that don't understand, there's emotional distress that tends to manifest itself in the body physically, socially, all the areas that impact us. And that was called Black fatigue. And I wrote a satirical, kind of funny, but had a point article. It was actually one of my biggest articles I ever wrote when I was writing for the Puff, for the Huff Post. And it was me kind of taking a satirical role. Are you suffering from a black ache? I wrote this in 2016. So tell your friend that we actually have been talking about this, and you have not they have once again stolen something that was not theirs from Black people. So
that's what I said in my TikTok. I literally said, you all always colonize a concept and then make it mean something different. You did it with woke. You did it with critical race theory. You did it with social, emotional learning, diversity, equity, inclusion, Black Lives Matter. All of these things, you reduced them to 3 letters because you know your people are simple and you need to keep things simple. And then you made those 3 letters the worst thing ever, right? Like the KKK doesn't still exist or whatever, or the NRA doesn't still exist today, right? I mean, we got some 3 letters that we could go after.
Hey,
too,
did the NRA come to Philando Castillo's?
It's kind of funny. It's kind of funny. They should have, but it's a little weird because you would think that they did. You think that they would have jumped on that quick. You know, he was a legal gun owner, so I mean, I would assume that they jumped on that pretty quick. But the answer to your question is hell no. Hell no. You know what? It took a long time. They eventually did get there. I should say that. They did eventually get there. And by eventually, I mean way too late, but they got called out so much to where they had to do something about it. Right.
Right. And love to Maj Toure. I do know him. I've been on a few shows. You know Maj, right? Have you met Maj Toure before?
Mm-mm.
Maj Toure leads the Black Guns Matter stuff movement.
I've seen him. Yeah,
we've been on some shows together, a la boys, and we've had some good conversations. I'm a legal gun owner. I'm trained in owning guns, and when you buy the gun, just for the people that are not gun owners, the NRA, like they get your information right then, and the level you can't just click a button for them to stop sending you stuff. Like it's when the NRA gets you, they're like, yo. And so Maj Toure, shout out to him. He's kind of built like a Black union of like these gun owners and has things for you to know your rights and what you need to do and all that stuff. Anyway, he's an interesting cat. Definitely good to have a conversation with, agree on some things, disagree on some other things. But the point is that, wait a second, if we're unified in this, we believe in our Second Amendment right, like it shouldn't the color shouldn't matter. You should have been at the front. Like, wait a second, hold on, what is happening here? We don't do this. There's a right to this, right? So this is
a legal gun owner. A legal gun owner.
Every time somebody tries to say it's not racist, a thing, the Lord just has an issue happen where it is absolutely race. It is the next day. Look, bro, I grew up with a very religious grandmother, very, very Baptist, and I could never, every time I tried to do something bad, like I remember I tried to snatch a cookie one day, I immediately tripped and damn near busted my face open. Like it just was, my car, I feel like as a Black person, my karma has always came damn near instantly. So that is how the Lord treats these people when they're like, this is not a racial thing. And then we will give you a race. Like Trump, this is not racial. He cut it off for everybody. Hey, white Afrikaners are in danger, world. You are welcome here. All of our trying to keep illegal immigrants out of here be damned. We got enough room for you. We got enough room for you. And as Chris said, we have to connect dots, right? There is an issue because white people are they're about to become a minority. The numbers are overwhelming. They're not making enough babies. There's a reason why Planned Parenthood is not as prominent in other neighborhoods that they are in other communities, right? That's why a lot of these people are trying to get rid of Planned Parenthood because they don't want white kids. They don't want these white people aborting babies. Black kids abort as many as you want, but it's a numbers game, right? And you're seeing this across the world. There's a bunch of different ethnicities and cultures that are saying, but where's the shortage? Because the world has more people than it's ever had in recorded history.
Right.
Oh, but there's a shortage. A shortage of what? I thought we were impacted. I thought that California has no more room to build homes in Oakland, but we need, and it's because white people are losing their firm grip on society. And
their numbers.
Exactly.
Which is why they're trying to fix the election systems.
And at least the Japanese have come out and said it, right? The Japanese have said, we need y'all to have babies. We need this. We will incentivize.
The Japanese, now for people to know, they will import you.
To have babies.
Yeah, they have given up on this. Japan is just for Japanese stuff now. So they're like, yeah, come over here. get yourself some loving. Come over.
Hey, we'll take a black and these, baby. Come on, baby.
Listen, we weren't for it before, but now we've changed.
Just don't like Taiwan, baby. So. No.
Here's how I know what you just
China
said. China has
turned the world against Taiwan. I'm sorry. Continue.
This is how I know what you just said is so true, because I live in a rural area. When you drive from where I live to Minneapolis to get to go to the airport,
space
on the way there, the billboards, one after another, you just see billboards that have the little baby or the heartbeat, and they'll say like, I was a person at 3 weeks, or my heartbeat started at 4 weeks, or it'll be all these emotional plays on the billboards as you're driving to Minneapolis. But when you're driving back the other direction, there are no billboards saying, don't kill your babies, don't kill your babies. As a matter of fact, in the hood and in the city itself proper, there are no billboards saying, don't do this, don't do this. And that's why I think it's funny every time they try and use black people for abortion. They say, well, black people, more babies die from abortion amongst black people than anything, right? And it's like supposed to be sympathetic, like we're just here because we're just against abortion and because we want you to have the baby, the black babies. You guys, it's a genocide, blah blah blah. Well, then why don't you put some of those
religious people? And they're just like, I know we believe that this is,
But why you only put the billboards up in white areas with the oh my God baby? And why have I never seen a black baby on one of those because
it's the billboards? It's like, hey, we got a drive-through one for you. You ready?
Well, I mean, what they know is they know that a lot of their people are driving to the city to get an abortion, right? Mm-hmm. So they want you to guilt on the way there. They want you to turn around. Yeah. So the whole thing is to guilt you into turning around.
I mean, if you look, I don't have it in front of me, Chris, but if you look where a lot of those bands like are strong, tend to be very, very right-leaning strangleholds, where there used to be a lot more white people that were more dominant, but you're really close to becoming purple, to becoming blue. We gotta stop that.
That's why they're anti-city. That's why they're gay. They're anti anything that doesn't produce babies, anything that stops the reproduction rate. They're anti now. Do you know that now they're pushing, and this is where I think they're going to start overreaching, because now they're in Congress. They're pushing a bill to eliminate porn completely. So
I think it's already started to happen in some places.
No, it did in some places. Some states they got rid of Pornhub.
They make Pornhub. You got to verify. You have to
Actually, Pornhub got rid of themselves because they said we're going to retaliate by not allow. We're not going to do what you told us to do. We're just going to stop having it in your state.
Well, you know what they told them to do, right?
Yeah, they made age verify.
That you have to send in your picture with your ID.
Yes.
And it won't. Nobody will see it. Okay, got you.
And people have heard me. If you know me, you've heard me say this before, because I think weirdness is something we just got to keep talking about. And it's just weird that when Pornhub goes after what's the most searched term in your state, the blue states has some pretty vanilla stuff, some pretty regular stuff, right? What you might expect. The red states tend to love trans people a lot when they're behind closed doors. It's the number one search term in the red states on Pornhub.
Did not know that.
And if people think I'm lying, go look it up. Because, I like to say stuff. I'm like Dick Gregory. When he was on my show, he said a bunch of wild shit. And my producer...
And it was all true?
It was true. My producer was typing away as he was talking because she wanted to give me the look about whether he's saying something true or not. And he would say one, and I'd be like, this can't be true. And she'd be like...
It's over? They're like...
Yep. Yeah, it's true. The one about the Rockefeller, he said, boy, don't you know that Rockefeller wanted to run for president and he had a gay son, so he sent him to New Guinea so he could get eaten by cannibals? I said, no, I didn't know that. And in my mind, I'm thinking, you crazy. You have lost your damn mind until you look it up. Rockefeller did want to run for president. He did have a gay son. He did send him to Papua New Guinea. And while he was over there, he got eaten by cannibals.
Well, I will say this. I don't know. As we segued into porn and the all-knowing porn, they gather interesting data, and they are also very, very strong predictors. They have chosen the dominant form of media for the last 50 years. They're the ones that won the war for VHS versus Betamax. They're the ones that won Blu-ray over HD, whatever, DVD. Whatever horse they have picked to be the primary focus, the other things have gone away. So if you loved your Betamax from back in the day, Chris Stewart, blame pornography.
I mean,
it is the biggest predictor of what will dominate.
I will say this about the pornographers and whatever is,
how did we get here, Christopher?
this is what I will say about, like, there is not a technology that comes out that they're not the first one in line to figure out how to use it, right? Whatever technology comes out, you can expect them to innovate. They are the innovators. You want to talk about a group of people who innovate more than Apple or anybody else in this country. You put out any technology, and they were the first ones to figure out how you could do payments over the internet. They were the first ones to figure out how you could, have memberships. They were the first ones to figure out how you could sell just like digital products online. They were the first ones to figure out how you could stop it from buffering, right? You want to innovate anything and you're not. Yes, listen. If they can find a use for whatever you invent, if they can find a use for it, they'll be the first in line. And you know what? They got so much money. They got so much money that they can. Well, let me take that back. There's so much money to be made if you figure it out. So there's an incentive. That's how capitalism works, right? Like if you selling, dope is that's like a low level grift, steal, blah, blah. Until you are at Pornhub level where they figured all this stuff out, that's like America's version of oil. I mean, that's like one of our biggest exports around the world.
I mean, listen, man, I
that's why everybody wants to go to war with us. You cannot
go do this without being persecuted. Listen, man, I really don't try to judge people. I don't have really strong thoughts on it. I do just think it's a medium. I think it's just interesting, and it's been proven too often. Like it's everywhere. Everybody does. Everybody, whatever the case is. So there's a lot of people fronting because people are ashamed or whatever. But just in this, back to this black thing, right? Back to this black fatigue thing. Crazy segue, by the way. I tried to have a better one, but it is.
Let me give you a segue too. They also like to look up ebony porn. So,
I would assume that one was,
that's like something called race play is very popular, right? So that's our segue. So segue out.
Hey, y'all, I don't kink shame. You into what you're into. I think people's bedrooms should be their bedroom, but I was
I feel like that one.
Go back to the topic.
That one I do judge. I do judge on that one. I'm sorry.
Yeah, I mean, why? You have there's a strong history of it. Like since we have arrived to this place on boats and been sold, and people have claimed to be repulsed by the sight of us, there have been mixed babies from 9 months from 9 months after it has happened.
Thomas Jefferson's the biggest example. He wrote about the inferiority of black people and that they smell bad, that they can't blush, which makes them not beautiful. They're like orangutans. Even the men among their race want our women more than they want their own. He wrote all this in the Notes to Virginia.
Jesus,
he wrote that way back then, and then he had Sally Hemings with a special room connected to his.
Who would have thought that Torrin was the person that kept us from getting just canceled from everybody? But welcome to Three the Hard Way, because what I'm about to say is going to probably really get us out of the paint. So, but again, we don't have Torrens like 600 people that be live, so we can go under the radar. Let me get these off. Did you know that like I never got the black people as monkeys or apes things, because when you put our physical features, humanoid features next to that of chimps or monkeys, they don't have black features. Like the lips are not black. They they don't look black. They look like a different group. And have you read Sapiens?
Yeah. Wow.
I love Sapiens.
Not in a while. Yeah.
Sapiens is an incredible book. If you guys have not read it, go read it. If you don't want to, go get the audio book. The audio book is just as entertaining, maybe even more, because you can listen to it like a podcast. But when it breaks down, people don't know that there were different types of humans. Everybody wasn't just Homo sapien. There was Neanderthal. There was a bunch of different folks, and they believed that some white folks came from the Nordic and came from there. Black people came from a whatever, right? But it was just very interesting when you break down the anatomy and I just don't know how the monkey thing stuck with us. I don't know. I have to go research it. It's just a random thought that I was having that seemed,
you know what?
That seemed relevant to this conversation.
There's a story
talking
there.
About black fatigue.
There's a story that, like, every time you ask a question like that and you go and find the answer to it, you're like, oh, that shit, that makes sense. They did that on purpose. I mean, I just did a TikTok a couple days ago. So there's a trend on TikTok right now where black people are saying, there was a black woman who came on and said, you know that redheads, whenever you see a redhead, you are looking at a black person. They have a recessive gene. They are a black person, and they pass as white, but they're not. So that became a big discussion, and people got mad. And they started making it about Sinners, the movie. This was funny. You would have been good in this conversation, because they started saying, what part of Sinners? There was this one sister, she came on and said, I'm never talking to y'all again, because y'all asked me to do these think pieces, and I come on here and I told you that Sinners was about not inviting everybody into your house and into your party. And the very next day, you dumb fools are out here trying to tell redheads that they're black and bring them into the fold. And you want proximity that bad. She went off on it. And she was like, she talked about Sinners, of course. I made a TikTok that said, well, here's the thing. The reason why Irish people had that much proximity to black people is because they were at roughly the same level of social status.
Absolutely.
For a long period of time. And people like to think that all mixed babies come from slave abuse or whatever. They forget that the Irish and the blacks were working in the fields together. They were partying together. They were weekending together. They were doing a lot of stuff together. And when we say black Irish in the United States, it means something a little different than it meant over there. But there's a lot of people whose lineage, including my own, has a lot of Irish people in it, which is why I felt like I had to chime up on this. And why am I saying this? I'm saying this because Irish people were depicted as monkeys and apes too, for the longest time, because they are the black people of white people. The Irish are the black people of white people, and they have been for a long time. Now, if anybody wants to check this right now, look it up. You will see that when the Irish first came here, they had them looking like the biggest monkeys. They had pictures of a pretty face and then an Irish woman's face, and the Irish woman's face would look just like Lord, what was it? Planet of the Apes type of stuff, right? I'm like, well, damn, they just apply that to everybody they don't like, right? Like, you know, the monkey thing is
even in Planet of the Apes, they look like the white people. Okay, so let me just
I think the Planet of the Apes was some racist bullshit.
I'm just saying they didn't look like black people in Planet of the Apes. And anyway, yeah. All I'm saying is, like, I mean, you said, when you start looking up these things, like, again, the watermelon thing, how watermelon got to us. It wasn't just because everybody likes watermelon. It's a beautiful, sweet, and it's huge and it feeds a lot. But it was because it was a source of economics for black people. It was allowing some of them to have and to be independent economically. So we got to take that away. It
was a stronghold for black
people. Right.
Yeah. So they made it bad. Same thing with fried chicken.
Same.
Right. Everybody was eating fried
chicken. Yes.
Yeah. But if you go back and look at some of the pictures that how they were depicting the black folks during Reconstruction, because, you know, black people started getting elected and they were in Congress. If you look at some of the pictures of that they were drawing, the cartoons, they were drawing them all sitting with their feet kicked up on the tables, eating watermelon and chicken in the Congress, right? Like, and it was supposed to mean, like, can you believe this nonsense? Can you believe this is where we're at now? The Negroes up in there. And then they came up, they got rid of Reconstruction, got rid of those people, and then they went into the Congress and they still ate fried chicken themselves.
Right.
And watermelon.
It's just like, again, so just for people to know, again, and I am somebody, I love celebrating all types of groups. I really do. I like you said, like, I've read a bunch of things about, you know, ancient Rome and all that stuff. One, it's just fascinating stuff. Like if you like Game of Thrones, I feel like if you just read history, you will get your fix. Like if you really want some Game of Thrones stuff, read about the Persians, read about the Greeks, read about, during these times. I love reading about Chinese dynasties, right? Like ancient Chinese, like warrior dynasties. I'm fascinated by it. Like, I don't know, like, and my dad like kung fu movies. I think a lot of black men his age came up on kung fu movies. I don't know if you did, but it's like a thing. You know what I'm saying? Like, I like celebrating other cultures. And here's the thing, but I don't pimp those other cultures. And I think ours is the one that gets pimped. And I think that when you, when everybody can come in and like every hair salon, every place here that sells hair or wigs, it's ran by an Asian person. And, I asked, there was
Let me ask you a question. Let me ask you a question about this. Why do black people buy hair?
I mean, they want to. I mean, there's you listen. I know what the scholarly answer is, right? There's Eurocentric beauty standards that have made them kind of go for these different things or whatever. But I also think that even if that is true, the level of creativity and like ingenuity that's come around it, if that was the reason, those same black people have elevated that to a whole different thing, right? I have a friend who does hair. They have like these magic shows. The magic show. I don't know if you but it's about like all the creativity and things like that. Other places not doing that. So my thing is this, I don't care, right? Like I like a natural sister. If you put a weave in and it look good,
I just want to say, I do care.
I mean, I got you. I'm not, my thing
I care for a couple of reasons, for two reasons. One, because you just mentioned one of the reasons that the Chinese are extorting from black people, where black people are the main customer, the main goddamn customer. And the Asian folks who run that industry will only let you get to a certain point, even though you're the primary target for the sales, right? So ask any black folks who have tried to go up the chain and start their own hair distribution business.
Oh no, that's what I was coming to next. They not only would they gatekeep it, if they find out the Asian person that gave you the information, that gave you the plug of where it is, not only will they kick you out the trade show and will not sell to you, they will find who gave you the information, and they too are out.
And what would happen if black folks just stopped buying their product then? Because we're the number one customer. So, I mean, if there was some sort of cultural change where people were like, you know what? First of all, we don't need straight hair to be beautiful, and like
I'm telling you, I'm looking at my notes, right? Because I'm really trying to. I mean, there's a lot of these examples, though. It's not just that. Like I'm from Oakland, very famous Muslim family, the Bays, and they told these people that were not black that ran all these liquor stores. They were like, "Look, why is it only check cashing in liquor stores and you selling pork and liquor, but y'all don't consume or you don't have that? So if it's not good enough for your people, why is it good enough for ours?" And then they start shutting stuff down. I'll tell you this story. I don't know names, so nobody can get in trouble. But there's this place I used to shoot pool at on San Pablo, kind of on the border of Oakland and Emeryville. North Oakland, this area. And we were in there. So the Muslim bakery and all that stuff was across the street. Like they had like a row of stuff. Also, that fish sandwich, so great. I remember being a kid, being scared to eat it. I had to ask my pastor. My pastor was like, "You can definitely eat it's fine, bro. It's okay. Get me one too." But there was a place down the street and down around the corner, and they had already got this warning. So we're in there shooting pool, and it was some brothers that came in. It was just they was like, "Young men, it's time for y'all to go. There's some business that needs to be handled." We left. A door got locked behind us, and conversations and things were had. And next week, that place was gone. They did that to a bunch of different places. I think they have been, one of them eventually got arrested or something happened. But our liquor stores are not normally black. Our grocery stores are not. If you're lucky enough to have a grocery store, if you are in certain types of poverty, the hair salon, the nail salon. And when you talk about centers, right, there's something to be said. I think there was a very loud statement around, we don't have one general store. We got two. We got one that's on the black side of the street and one that's on the white side of the street. And we have rapport with both of these groups. And as soon as the sister, I thought it was I think Ryan was very fair in his assessment of like, look, This is her baby. This is her daughter. She don't care about nobody else. But there's some gems he put in there around like, hey man, we said we was gonna sell some stuff here. That ain't this dead shit. This go get the car. Like they died because she was like, hey, we didn't sign up for that. We got a whole other side of business that we can still do. This is some black shit. We don't want to have nothing to do with this. And I think that was a very clear sign, like you said, right? Like when in your TikTok thing, the message was to some people, the message was very clear from the movie. Stop inviting everybody in your place. Stop inviting everybody into your neighborhood and your community. But we're talking about neighborhoods and communities that don't have a choice. They're not in the political power or position to do that thing. Because Chris, let's me and you right now go back home to Oakland, where we both lived and spent prominent years growing up. And we can pick Oakland or San Francisco. Let's go try to start our own little shop in Chinatown. San Francisco or Oakland, you pick. Let's see how it goes.
Says that there's a brother named George Fraser who wrote a book called Success Runs in Our Race. And he says that all the time. He says, if you ever want to find out what I'm talking about, try and open a Booker T. Washington delicatessen in Chinatown and see what happens. And that always has stuck out to me. Like, yeah, I guess that wouldn't work exactly, right? I don't know what that means though about like first of all, let me just say this because you hit on something that gave me an idea that I hadn't really thought about before, which is the biggest kind of, God, I don't know how to say this. The most revolutionary thing that a black person probably could do right now if they wanted to pull all these capitalist entities to their knees is to become a Muslim. Modest dress, modest clothing, modest lifestyle, no pork, no alcohol,
eat to live,
no eat to live, all that type of stuff. And you know, it's like the brothers who convert in prison or join the nation become a different person.
Aspect. It's the discipline aspect.
Discipline. There's something that and I'm saying this in two directions: the nation and the rank and file, kind of global Islamic Muslims. Both of those. If you came either one of those, the level of stuff, the number of things you wouldn't do anymore, the number of people who can't make money off of you anymore. They can't make money off of your women because your women ain't doing all these things. It's modest stress and modest lifestyles. So all this stuff that they go and do for themselves or whatever, that goes away. That's a market to itself. The alcohol, the porn, the pork. People start living longer. Mm-hmm. So now you a double threat.
How old is Minister Farrakhan, brother?
110.
And how good does that brother look? Yeah. How good and how sharp is his mind still? Like, I live in Chicago, B. Listen, I live right up. Well, now that the Pope is from Dalton, I live in Chicago now. Right?
That was the Pope. Farrakhan was the Black Pope for a long time.
I don't know about who was. I think he's still one of the most respected people. I think. Look, this is the one
for those that will admit it. For the ones that will admit it.
Right.
Yes.
But I'm just saying, like, Chicago, Farrakhan means something different here, bro. Like he means something different. If you go into Hyde Park, you can see where Obama lives. A few blocks is where the minister and them work. And when you walk over there, somebody is watching your car. Like, they will answer questions, and they will. Have you ever? The next time you come, if you've never been there, I will take you there because
I'm not trying to do all that.
One is beautiful. One is beautiful. Like, they're not gonna.
I've seen it.
Oh, it's gorgeous. Like, there's like multiple homes. Like, and they brought the sandstone from like the Holy Land. Like, it's a beautiful. And they don't play. They'll be like, you can take pictures of this space. Do not photograph our women or people coming in and out of this building. They're very, very. They let you know.
So I feel like you're making my point even more relevant. I'm gonna have to keep thinking about this because honestly, listen to all that power.
Right. And you respect it. You do not. I am Baptist. I've been Baptist my entire life. I don't plan on changing, but I respect anytime them brothers tell me, and they tell me with respect. They mean what they say. Okay.
I have a thought though, based on what you just said. Mm-hmm. Even if you didn't convert, what if you took on all of the behavior?
That's what attributes? I think that I have said this. I used to get mad at my church because I only saw the Muslim brothers out there every morning when we were walking to school. And they were just like, yo, why? Like, we stop in and talk to girls. They know what time the bell ring. Hey, man, young man, we need you at that school building. Hey, the liquor store is closed right now. Liquor store, like, we ain't closed. the liquor store is closed right now. Go to school. Yes, sir. Yes, sir. If I see you out here again, I'm going to take you to your parents. If I see you out here, and your daddy already told me I can have you do 10 push-ups. I can make you do 20 push-ups. I need you to go pay this respect, right? They also, the Bay Muslims, and they're called the Bays, B-E-Y, not Bay Area, but they just happen to be in the Bay. But like they also had a security company. So if you have a nightclub there, like you go to them for security. You don't have as many problems when the Muslims is leading your security versus when you got like different type of security, right? Like they had a whole ecosystem. And again, they just did not play those type of games. And these are people that you take seriously. But you're making me think of something, Chris. And I've said this in other places. Torin, you can't leave me and Chris alone again because we get the vibe.
Listen, I know what Torin would be saying right now. I know what he would be saying right now. I could. It's not like he don't
drop it in our Slack. Go ahead.
Yeah, it's not like he doesn't have his own cancellation.
Oh no, he does. He absolutely does.
Yeah.
He absolutely does. That's what I'm saying. He would have interjected something else by now, is what I'm saying, and we would have been reacting. I would have been in the middle, and y'all would have been having a cancel off. That's
yeah.
We should change the name to the cancel off. That would be a great name for a show.
Listen, I mean, you can try and do it. I think this last point though is really. I'm going to stick with this for a minute, and not a minute. I'm going to stick with this for a while because the hair thing. You just gave me this as an example of like you could cripple these industries that take us for granted, right? But the only way you could do it is if you make a cultural shift. Right. It can't be like a temporary boycott of Target. It has to be God told me that I can't consume this
and the solution can't just benefit very elite black people or you know, our old guard in Al Sharpton.
Bro, like though, listen, Target is hurting a little bit.
They absolutely are. But the solution, but I bet you Al is going to leave this situation and he's going to be enriched more than the average black person walking the street.
Another hot take here.
Okay.
Right? Another hot take. Black people are hella hypocritical on this Target shit.
Oh, say more.
They want to boycott Target right now.
Is it they or we, brother? Because you were black. You black the last time. Oh, this one.
I don't know that I'm with it. I mean, let me just correct that a little bit. It did, change my behavior, but I'm not like religious about it.
I hate Target. Target is Target ain't the Montgomery bus system.
Listen, first of all, Target's a Minnesota company, so I'm forced by law as a Minnesotan to love Target. But Target also, donates so much money every week. Every week, it's 5% of their earnings goes to education. So I've seen entire schools get built with Target money. But this is what I'll say about it is, Target, since George Floyd, has been putting black products, millions of them on the shelf that go back to clearance. And if you don't sell things, it goes back to the business owner.
And we're going to get you up out of here.
And either you're going to get up out of there or you're going to buy them back. That's the whole thing. So you had black creators saying, y'all didn't come out and buy these black products that, we demanded they put into the store. And as a matter of fact, this is where I know I'm kind of part of the problem. I'm going to tell you why I'm part of the problem. Because some of the black shit that they had in there is dope. But what I learned is if you wait until after Juneteenth or after whatever event they're having,
it's all free, like baby.
It's like 70. I have a stack of Juneteenth napkins downstairs in my basement because they were like 50 cents for all these Juneteenth napkins. Now, how are you going to be mad at them and boycott them when you didn't support the black businesses that they put on the shelves?
That were there. I mean, because I think sometimes the feeling of motion is better than actual motion. And I think that's the issue. And let me tell you what I mean. And Kamar and I were supposed to write this. Hopefully we will. Maybe we can write it, Chris. It's not Kamar's fault. It's my fault. I would say, but this goes back to that Muslim argument as well. For other groups, for other racialized groups, there is a thing that is called Agbu. Did not get a lot right in my book, but I think this was like there was a good point here, even though I don't agree with his sentiments. But there are voluntary and non-voluntary immigrants. So what does that mean? Mm-hmm. We're talking about a community when we see who's running your corner store, your nails, your hair. somebody in those people's lineage, for the most part, I know there's maybe somebody got dragged, but for the most part, there was a decision made in their homeland to leave there and come to this place because you see the amount of economic growth and what you can do when you're an American. So they're choosing to be American. You see this from a lot of African immigrants, right? Like when there's like the beef between African Black people and Black Americans, it's like, well, we came up here and did this. And part of that rule is you assimilate in certain ways. Like you are making a pact, right? So the Irish was white niggas until they became a part of the white structure. This still fits though, and this is why I think you're onto something with this Muslim thing, because for the most part, you have to make a personal commitment to Islam to be a Black Muslim. You are doing that of conscious mind. So when you're doing this of conscious mind, you're saying, look, go watch. This is why Malcolm X is such a figure for so many Black males. It's still one of the most important books I've ever read, but you're watching him when he was just not making choices. He was making bad, poor decisions, and he was Detroit Red. But then he made a decision to like, I'm making a decision to live my life this way. There has to be some type of reconciliation that we have as Black Americans, where there's a conversation that we have and we buy into a better economic, a better way, a better thing that we choose to do. And it doesn't have to be fully based around religion. It's just religion has always historically been one of the easier things to organize around. So there's some more to leaf out of there, but I do want to do this research in this report, an updated version of the non-voluntary versus voluntary immigrant, because Black Americans are involuntary immigrants. There were no choices for the most part. You were dragged here. You were put into this thing. This thing was built off of you. And that has a history that follows you. So it's different when you choose to come here versus when you are here. I used to say this, like there's a difference when I choose to live in Oakland or when you grew up there and you had to live in Oakland. It's it's a different existence in a lot of ways. I still have to think it through and like do the work.
I don't know that I love, like I've never loved Ogbu, but
I don't like Ogbu at all, but he's the one that introduced this terminology of voluntary, involuntary. Because his point was,
I know this, but my point is,
you are well read, Chris. We got an audience, brother. Let me explain to the audience.
Yeah, go ahead. Explain to the audience.
Ogbu basically had an issue. He was an African American. He's from Africa. He became American, worked at UC Berkeley, but he had this disdain for Black Americans. He felt that we were lazy, this, that, and the third. And he did these research studies, and he would focus on like Chinatown or like the Chinatown that's in Oakland now. And he would say the reason why they are successful and Black Americans are not is because they have chosen to assimilate, and that he has chosen to assimilate because unless you choose to assimilate and fully take on America and her characteristics, you will not and cannot be fruitful here. And so he said that in a way, kind of trying to push people or to like assimilate to this thing. I'm saying that those points, maybe the baseline of that may have some fact to it, but I don't agree with the sentiment. I think it works in the opposite. So again, and when you go for a dissertation, you can't just this is not for you, Chris, you know this, but for people out there, when you're researching something or you become an expert in something, you have to read everything on it. That also means people you might not like or agree with. It's part of the process. So go ahead, Chris. I just wanted to make sure our people listening understood who we were talking about.
I just feel like I'm full of hot takes tonight. So I got two on what you just said. The first one is, no, you don't. No, you don't. This is also something I said on TikTok that made people mad. I said that not all PhDs are created equal, right?
Mm-hmm.
I didn't know this, but apparently there's a whole bunch of diploma mills basically popping up with PhD programs, and you don't know it until you read a person's dissertation and go, what the hell is this? I can send you one because you know I like to read dissertations.
I do too.
I can send you one that looks like it. I can see. Yeah, I read it. I can send you one that looks like it was written in crayon.
That's my saying. I would say somebody should have written in crayon quick. This is crayon.
All qualitative data, all qualitative stuff. Anyways, I feel like I lost my point on the previous thing. The Ogbu thing.
Sorry about that.
I don't love the involuntary immigrant thing. I think there's a difference between being an involuntary immigrant, which is a clever and kind of cute saying, versus being the victim of human trafficking, the biggest human trafficking event in human history.
But that's what makes them involuntary. But I got you. I understand language matters.
Language matters. It's not, you're not an immigrant. You're not an immigrant, right? That's like saying, you know, a rape victim is a sex worker. You know, it's no, you're not an immigrant. Immigrants are actual immigrants. Refugees are refugees. There's names for things. We call things things. A refugee is different than an immigrant, and an immigrant's different than a migrant. All these things mean something. You could say involuntary migrant or involuntary refugee or whatever. So there's two things I have a problem with. Number one is the language is cute, and I think it minimizes the depth of what actually was happening and happened. And it takes away the status of, like, you know, the Holocaust has a very specific status. We don't try and get cute with the language around it.
We do not.
You're
right.
It was just bad. I don't want to get cute with slavery. I don't want to get cute about involuntary immigration and that type of shit, because that's not what that was. And I also, you know, would take issue with the idea that, well, maybe this will come up in your writing when you write about it. I mentioned refugees, right? There's a lot of refugees who come here willingly, but they come with a lot of trauma that we caused, right? That's why they're refugees. We blew up their home. We got them to help us blow up their home. You know, they got savaged and then put into camps, and then they come here. So they're voluntary, but they're coming with a lot of trauma, right? It's not like some people, like, I feel like a voluntary immigrant is someone who moves here from Denmark.
No, that's not involuntary though.
No. I mean voluntary. Like, a voluntary immigrant is someone who moves here from Denmark because they like it, or blah, blah.
But like, it's anybody that makes a conscious choice to come.
I mean, yes, I guess. But I will just say, when someone comes here from Somalia, right, because we blew up their towns and we're resettling them, I think they'll want to go anywhere except for where they're at. We could call it voluntary, but we actually caused them the I don't know. Anyways, you're gonna write this.
Yeah, so, I'll write it. And again, when I write it, it'll be way more detailed than what I just kind of gave, because again, I was soft for some of that. But basically, autonomous minorities, or the terms that he used, I'm gonna send you the article too, but it's groups that have maintained their distinct cultural identity and have not been incorporated into the dominant society. Agbu was obsessed with dominant culture. He was obsessed with white people and how they moved. He really, really liked them. So voluntary minorities are immigrant groups who've chosen to move to the U.S. seeking better opportunities, and they tend to view education as the means to upward mobility and often adopt dominant cultures, norms, and values. There's somebody else that speaks in this way today who also has very similar ties to that way and tends to like a topic that I like, but we're not the same either. I don't like their use of agency, but they believe in this very same thing. They've just updated their rhetoric and kind of Trojan horse this voluntary thing in there.
For the record, the person that we're subtweeting right now, for all y'all that don't know what we're talking about, who we're talking about, he who will not be named, but happens to be a first-generation immigrant.
Yes, absolutely. And so involuntary minorities, right? Not autonomous, but involuntary minorities or involuntary immigrants. He uses minorities, but it was in the early 90s. Groups that were incorporated into the United States through colonization, slavery, or conquest, such as African American and Native Americans. These groups often develop an oppositional identity to dominant culture due to historical and systemic discrimination. So again, when you look at the current status of Black Americans as a whole, or Native Americans as a whole, the theory itself is not teetering left or right? It's just given a name and naming these phenomena that data has backed up. So again, Agbu does not like your Black American ass. So
even what you just said is so disrespectful. Like, we developed an oppositional culture.
Well, it's oppositional to what is. Well, listen. There's a lot of these flags.
That's basically saying that
term bothers me, because I don't think that they are dominant culture. I think we actually have the dominant culture. I think that they are the dominant profiters off of culture. So again,
I mean, that's making Black culture nothing but the reaction. A reaction is something else. When Black culture, where Black culture very clearly, by anybody who studies it, closer than a first-generation immigrant from somewhere else who doesn't have any respect for us. what someone else who studies us would say is invention is the number one key of Black culture.
Right.
It's not reaction. We're not reacting to shit. We're producing stuff that they steal, constantly inventing.
Right.
We are inventors. We are creators. We create shit that don't exist.
Yeah.
That's the culture.
Oh, you mean
that
like
is literally the culture.
None of the people that lead like in the top levels or look like
hip hop, jazz, like you can keep going down the list, like language, where there's trendsetters. It's in invention and innovation. Is the mark of our culture.
They just gave Gen Alpha and Gen Z like credit for like all that like slang of Gen Z. It's just Black vernacular that made its way to white people. Like that's all it is. It's all it is.
So I'll wait for you to try and rescue this brother, but I hear his disdain. So
no. There's no rescue. I don't. First off, Agbu. So Agbu, just for to be transparent, Agbu, my chair, Dr. Sean Jenwright, who's very very left, and who this is how I got a lot of these personal stories. He used to not clerk for him, but the equivalent of like clerking for him. Like he's like, he's a grad student. For those that don't know, when you're like a grad student going for your dissertation or something, you usually are assigned certain people and like you have to like lead their classes, be their assistant, whatever the case is. Anytime he was like half a second late, he felt the disdain. And Sean would grow up to become a very, very prominent scholar in this country who I had the pleasure of having as my chair. He was not Sean's chair, by the way. I want to be very clear. That would be one Pedro Negura was Sean Jenwright's chair. So that makes Pedro. Does that make him my academic grandfather? Anyway, I don't know. It's weird. It gets very weird and weird as you go into how academia looks at things. But Agbu don't like Black people. But I think that even in his disdain, I think that a broken clock, right? Like when I look at the current status of Native Americans and African Americans or Black Americans in this country, right? Like there's a framework that I think there's some smoke there. I do think that somebody from a different perspective is like, how do we talk about this now? And what does this mean? And I think it has been coming up in white America. I think if you look at Project 2025, I think if you look at all this stuff about baby births and who's here and what the domination of who will be dominant at some point. Like y'all was worried about a lot of Black people, and to be very frank, you did a good job on us, but you're not doing a good job on them brown folks. Them brown folks is moving different. And you know what they do? They have babies and they got a lot. And very, very, very soon in the very near future, they will be the majority, regardless of what you do around immigration, regardless of how you cut off these borders, because people are here now. And that's where a lot of this stuff is coming. And that's why you hear people screaming from the mountaintops about like this immigration thing is deeper than what people are thinking. I just got really nerdy. We need to end this. I'm very, very nerdy right now. We've been going for 2 hours, but that means we was enjoying each other's company, man.
So what did we cover? So let's see. Okay, so the wrap for people.
We don't talk about fucking.
So what did we cover? We covered, first of all, refugees from Africa.
Yes,
they're not the type but they're not the type of refugees from Africa.
White refugees from Africa.
White refugees from Africa. South African folks being the group that we're really talking about. We talk about the conversion of Black America into power could really happen is that if they adopted Muslim behavior. The number of industries that would crash and burn if every Black American adopted Muslim behavior. It would change everything. It would change everything.
Anything scares this country more than if the 13.7 Black Americans all tomorrow woke up very militant Black Muslims.
Let's say even if they weren't militant, but you just mimic the behavior.
Just the practices.
The practices. Right. You would talk about a much healthier people who are not slaves to commercialism, who are not capitalism's ploys, and
be growing our own food, treating our own
folks
soil.
would have to negotiate with us at that point. They'd y'all because we're billions of dollars in market. Like our market value is billions. So pork by itself is $1 billion, right? So just pig by itself is so there you go.
Ain't talked about hair, you ain't talked about the nails, you ain't talked about alcohol, you ain't talked about like none of this. So
beauty products.
Mm-hmm.
The whole beauty products thing. I mean, Alicia Keys, when she went no makeup for that period of time,
right,
which was considered
not very difficult for her, but continue. Yeah,
I mean,
there wasn't a real sacrifice made there, but I get the sentiment. I love you, Alicia.
Yeah, it's kind of like Schwarzenegger saying, "I went to the gym today." Yeah, of course you did. God damn it,
Halle Berry is doing the no makeup challenge. Have at it, guys.
I think Swiss Beats could tell you what it looks like in the morning is fine. It's right. Really like, I wake up next to this woman every day, and I think y'all tripping because without makeup in the morning, that's why we still married. So anyways, we talked about that, everybody. And then we made it around to red states, really loving them, some transgender people. Transgender and Black people, and they love them so much that they search for illicit material with those two characters. Black folks, ebony, what they call ebony, illicit behavior, right. And transgender. Yeah, red states seem to love it. They can't get enough of it. Anyways, far-reaching conversation. We were going to be 3 the hard way tonight, but we are 2 the hard way tonight because one of the 3 is not feeling well, is feeling. And
Chris, I'm going to try to make it next week. I have a major event at my home office, our year-end event on the other side of the country. So it may be the 2 again, but we can find somebody to fill in for me if I'm not able to make it. But I'm telling people now, there's no issue. I'm just, people we be moving and shaking. That's all.
That's the way these things work, man. That's the way these things work, we know it. We learned this from the 8 Black Hands, we learned a lot during that time. So, all right. Well, everybody, we appreciate you as always. Please share this with other folks that you think would be interesting. We're trying to grow this into something more, and we're off to a good start. I think we're off to a good start. We have some good content, good conversations, and people who who see it and participate think that they have a million things that they would have interjected. If I was on there, I would have said X. Blah, blah, blah. People catch up with me later, like that thing that you said. I would, whatever. All right, you would if you were there, but you're not. And microphones are cheap. So listen, Best Buy, homie, Best Buy. This has been another 3 the hard way. We appreciate y'all.
We appreciate y'all. Y'all have a good one. It's next week, same bad time, same bad station. Peace out, man. And